we decided to get married at Berea in the chapel there. The Danforths had built chapels in several colleges around, and Berea was one of them. And so we decided to go back there because I had been affiliated with a church in Knoxville, and Mike was affiliated with a church in Charlotte. And we had been at Berea, and then I had moved to Louisville. And so we just felt like that would be a good place to go back. And so I had to do a lot of planning long distance, but it was not a huge wedding there, and the chapel was small, and we just had a small reception with a cake and some mints was about all we had. And the week before, my younger sister Mary came and stayed with me, and I made her dress. Mother had made Evelyn's dress, and I think she made Virginia's, but I'm not sure. And then Virginia was very helpful. She went out and found some real pretty little feather headdresses that matched their dresses. They were turquoise dresses, and she found these little feathery fascinators for them to wear on their hair. So that was a big help. And then we all stayed in the motel at Berea. We went over and had a rehearsal, and then we all went out to have dinner at Dixie Kitchen there in the west end of Berea near the campus. And then we all stayed at Epley's Motel. And they kind of had a little shower for me because my Indiana relatives had come down. Aunt Haley and Uncle Guy, Georgia and Dorothy. No, Georgie did not come. Dorothy and Carl were here. Mike's brothers came from North Carolina, and his sister Flo, and her children, and his mother. And one of his aunts came. And then I had cousins from Knoxville who came up. Woody and Willie Harrell came, and so we got together, and they brought their gifts, and we had kind of a little shower that evening. And then one funny thing that happened, the ladies were all visiting, and the men decided they wanted to go to bed, and so they had to be in somebody's room, and so I think they were in Mother and Daddy's room, and so Daddy decided he would go and sleep in the other bed with Woody, so Willie, his wife, Wilma, and Mother could visit. Woody didn't know this. And my daddy did not snore, but he clicked. He would go, and Woody woke up in the night and heard this clicking going on, and he thought Willie was dying, and he got up to check on her, and it was Dad in the bed. But anyway, we all gathered at Berea, and we had the lovely wedding. Mike and I sang. We wore choir robes and sang up in the balcony at the back where the organ was. We sang "Oh Perfect Love," and then I sang "Calm as the Night," "Deep as the Sea is my love for thee," and Mike sang "How do I love thee, let me count the ways." And I sang first, then we did the duet, and then he sang while I went and got my wedding gown on. And my daddy wore a white dinner jacket, and he made fun of it, but he was also very proud. I could tell that he thought he looked good, and he was very proud in that. And
tell about the pants.
Oh, after we got to Berea, Mike realized that he had forgotten his pants, his wedding pants. He had rented a dinner jacket, but he was going to wear his own black pants. And so we managed to get in touch with Jack Oden's and arranged to send my house key to Jack on a Greyhound bus. And he met the bus and went to my house and got Mike's wedding pants and brought them to the wedding. And Jack was our friend from New Hampshire, who was a typical type A person who was really on top of everything. And I will say that when we left on the honeymoon, Jack checked everything before he left, and he found Mike had left his wedding pants at the motel, so he brought them back to Louisville for us. So he was the keeper of the pants. I had 3 bridesmaids, and they were all my sisters: Virginia, Evelyn, and Mary. And then Mike had 3 attendants: Jack Oden's and Harry Wilson and Jack Wilson, his two brothers, and Jack Odens. And it was lovely. The wedding went off very smoothly, except I got real excited because they couldn't find the tablecloth, and Dr. Gordon Ross, who was marrying us, just was very calm, and he said it'll all work out, and it did. And then we started away on our honeymoon, and I had a white car. It was a white 59 Chevy, and this was in 1960, and they had decorated the car with green and yellow crepe paper streamers, and it started to rain, and I was afraid it was going to fade on my car forever, so we pulled off and got all that paper off before it got wet. We spent the first night in Louisville in the little house that I had rented and that Mike had already moved his stuff into. And then the next morning we left to go on our honeymoon, and we stayed at Yellow Creek Lake in northern Indiana, which was owned by my cousin Georgie and her husband Jimmy, and they offered it to us for our honeymoon for a week, and it was lovely. It was just a typical lake cabin, but it was on the shore of the lake, and it was hot. It was July, but we could go swimming. Aunt Sally was a very plain-spoken woman. She was my daddy's older sister, and she never married, and she lived with her mother, a widow, and she was just said what she thought. And so when I took Mike to meet her, she had made me a quilt, and after she met him, she said she wanted me to bring the quilt back because she just thought it was big enough for us. We were too big for the quilt, so she wanted to add pieces onto it, and so she did. And I appreciated Aunt Sally. But she was, we have a lot of sayings of Aunt Sally's sayings because she just said it like it was. There wasn't any pretense. My brother Charles at that time was not able to come to the wedding. They were, young, and it cost a lot to travel. And Mike's sisters-in-law did not come. But one of them wrote me a detailed letter about how to get along with the Wilson men. She suggested that I get up and make coffee and take it to him so he would always be in a good mood. And I thought she might want to worry about my mood a little bit. But anyway, it was a fun time. And my daddy said that he could take us all to dinner for the rehearsal dinner, or he could give me the money, and I took the money instead. And it was a good time, and we had good friends there, and friends that my friend Jean was my friend then, and my friend Jean Anderson, and she was there in charge of the serving of the cake and punch, and
so you've been friends with her for over 60 years.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
And my good friends Ann and Norma were there, and some of my students were there.
Oh.
June Cunningham was there, and Sue Lott, and so it was just a really good time.
Wonderful day.
Mm-hmm.
And how did you know the minister?
He was a professor at Berea. He was a religion teacher at Berea, and he was not mine. My religion teacher was Dr. Noss, N-O-S-S, but Mike's was Dr. Ross, R-O-S-S. And Mike was really fond of him, and I liked Dr. Ross. I knew him, and so we asked him if he would perform our ceremony. And he
Nice.
did.
Well, it seemed to have worked.
I think it did.
Yeah.